is about to be 2021, folks. It is New Year's Eve. And I want to know what you learned in 2021. But I also want you to know what we learned in 2021. So I've asked all my guests from this season and a few of my friends to share what they learned. And here it is.
If there's one thing I learned in 2020, it's that you can learn a lot in a year. And the second thing would be I've really just been focusing on truth this year, truth and light, and the importance of it, and how it literally breaks down doors, and how even though that's so obvious that truth does that, that a lot of people don't like the truth, and a lot of people don't like the truth about themselves, and that a lot of us just deal with denial. And I think this world as a whole deals with denial when it comes to a lot of things. And I think this year has really uprooted a lot of those things and made visible on what we need to work on, you know, in our societies and ourselves, and, you know, just our world. So truth is it. Truth is lit, you know, but truth also doesn't come without repercussion, you know, and whether that be positive or negative, you know, it's gonna come with an effect, you know, and you got to be ready for that. You got to be willing, because sometimes that's change. So, yeah.
I learned how much people need people, how much we all need each other, and how much those human interactions and that love and that support that we give to one another really matters for our mental, emotional, physical health. And I think that we take that for granted when we're able to see each other every day and do whatever we want all the time, go hang out. We don't realize that we just kind of take it for granted. But when that gets taken away, you notice all of the negative effects it has on you, and how big of a deal loneliness really is. And I just think it's beautiful.
This year in 2020, I think I learned how to really stay the course, how to trust the journey, how to have gratitude and find joy wherever I am inside of my journey, and not just to wait for the highs to feel like I'm on top of the world, and not to let my lows ever get me too low. I'm still learning that part. I learned the beauty in watching people around me rally together to champion an idea, a goal, much bigger than ourselves. And it's been really beautiful to watch and see that happen all year long. I learned how to be okay with fear. I learned how to be okay with not knowing and not always understanding, especially in the middle of a pandemic when I'm 1,000 miles away from my family, and I'm concerned for their safety, and I'm concerned for mine as well in the middle of a pandemic. I learned how important it is to lean on other people and to not think that I have to do everything by myself. I've learned how to live out, or I'm learning how to live out a quote that I heard Shonda Rhimes say a few years ago. She said something along the lines of leading from the place of who you are and not just leading by what you can do. And I think that's so important as a person, as an artist, to know who I am and to let that lead me into whatever path I'm on, or whatever decisions I need to make, whatever art I need to make. And it's been challenging and rewarding at the same time. And I think I've learned that that's life.
Stephanie, in 2020, I'm still learning how to be more kind to myself, how to share my blessings with others, and how I can make the world a better place to live in, starting with in here.
What's going on? This is Redhead. I'm talking to you at Jacques Talk. What did I learn this year? Here's what I learned. I learned that West Indians are essential. I learned stay away from toxic individuals that don't see your vision. I've learned to always bet on your instincts. Always trust on people that are into your best interests, regardless if you're close with them or not. And always stay the course of what you want in your life. Negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. I just bought my first house today, damn it. And I'm over here with these ribs and champagne. I'm going to have a great time. Peace and love, 2020, 2021. We killing the game! Yes, sir.
Hey, it's Cam, and one One thing I learned in 2020 was that regardless of how productive I am in a day, I still had a day. And I'm trying to be better at accepting that and enjoying that.
Well, 2020 has been a bitch of a year. It's definitely taught me perspective and gratitude, and that there are more important things in life than just working all the time. Oh, one more thing. It's also taught me that I need to invest more in sweatpants and sweatshirts.
2020 has been a whirlwind of a year for reasons we are all aware of. And something that it taught me specifically is to reimagine how I interact with plans, because I'm a planner. I will plan, to the point of procrastination, but that's a conversation for another time. But what 2020 taught me ultimately is that you don't have to have a plan to succeed. There were so many things I was able to do, opportunities to take advantage of, all without a plan, things that I probably would have set aside months to plan for, and it was just a matter of responding in the moment and not overthinking. And so for that, I'm grateful for what this year has brought.
Oh, 2020, what have I learned from you? I have learned to be patient, not only with the people around me, but also with myself, and to allow myself the time to grow and learn to be the best version of myself, and understand that that doesn't happen overnight, and that's okay.
2020. Hi, everyone. I've been asked by Stephanie to just briefly speak about something I've learned this year. And I gotta tell you, it's kind of difficult for me to narrow down. This year has felt like many years packed into one. I'm sure you can relate. And with that, lots of different lessons learned. But to be able to keep this brief, I will speak just one thing that I'm trying to take with me in the new year. It's really more of like a mindset. But just to remember that we are all intricately woven human beings with deeply layered stories. So there's no possible way we could really know someone on the face in a quick snapshot judgment. And unfortunately, those types of patterns of behaviors and thoughts have only been heightened through this type of platform. I mean, social media, we pick up our phones, we swipe, we are bombarded with tons of information within seconds that makes our head spin. And that just cannot be how we interact as humans with one another. So take time. I'm talking to myself here. This is what I'm really trying to remember to do, but just to take time, look people in their eyes, ask them their stories, so I myself can start to unlearn all the different implicit biases that I know I have, we all have. So in order to unlearn, we have to learn, and we have to take time. So Happy New Year to all of you, and I look forward to learning more of your stories in the new year.
Hi, this is Casey from the Shindellas, and one thing I learned in 2020 was to trust that people are strong enough to handle your truth. If they love you, they want to know you. Thanks, Stephanie.
2020 taught me that the best way to be a good leader is to lead by example, because you're never going to say the right thing that's going to reach out to everybody, but everybody can watch you do what you think is right.
Hey y'all, I'm Reese Palmer, and I'm sitting in the dark because I'm hiding from my children. But Stephanie asked me to make a video about the lessons that I learned in 2020. And I sat and thought for a second, and I think the thing that I learned and the overwhelming lesson, theme, whatever, is to pursue things that are your passion and that are your purpose. And when you are doing that, the universe will meet you. And it may not come in the shape, form, or fashion that you want it to, or that you're expecting it to, but most likely it will exceed even the things that you imagine for yourself. I know that I've been at this for a very long time, and I've had some really great highs, and I've had some very low lows. And there were times when I wasn't sure that I wanted to do it anymore, because I was like, well, shouldn't I be at this place right now or be doing this by now? And if this isn't working, then maybe that means something. And unfortunately for me, I can't I just can't even see myself doing anything else. And so I persist. And, you know, at the top of the year, one of my closest friends had been telling me for a long time that she thought that I needed to do a podcast or something to do with all of the random music knowledge that I have and like all of the research that I already just naturally do on other artists and finding new music and that sort of thing. And I didn't have time for it. And I was like, it's not music. It's not singing. So I don't know that I want to do that. And thank God I finally had time and I finally just sat down and I listened. And that's how Color Me Country was born. And it's something that I'm extremely passionate about, which is helping other artists and just helping people to not make the mistakes that I made and to make better choices and better decisions and just to provide an easier way, the things that I wish that I had had. And I love this music and I love finding new music and I love finding new artists and like sharing them with people. So this was a combination of my purpose and my passion coming together. And when I made Color Me Country, I had no idea that anybody was going to want to listen to it. I didn't know that people would want to write about it. I didn't know that there was going to be a platform for it. Hold on, I hear children. But anyway, I just did it. I did it in my office, and my husband helped me put it together, and we just went out there, and I just put it out there. And I had no idea. If you had told me last January that this is what was going to happen, I don't know that I would have believed you, but I'm thankful, and it just reinforces again, anytime your passion and your purpose meet up, the universe will rise up to meet you. So if you are feeling like you're on the fence about something, or you're not sure about moving forward with a new venture or doing something that you're not necessarily comfortable with, take a deep breath, think it over, and then just do it. Just step out. And I promise you, it may not be in the way that you expect it to. It may not be the things that you want or that you think, but the universe will meet you. And with that, I hope it gives you hope for 2021. And that's all I got to say. Have a happy new year and thanks.
Hey, Stephanie. Thank you so much again for having me on your show. I really enjoyed our chat. I cannot believe that we have finally made it to the end of 2020. I know we will all breathe a collective sigh of relief when the clock strikes midnight into 2021. The biggest lesson I think I learned this year is not necessarily a new lesson. It is just being reminded of the power of choice. And that choice not only has to do with those actions that we take, but it also refers to inaction and the choice in the inaction. I think usually it's so easy in our normal lives, pre-COVID lives, I'll say, to just go and go and go and go and just mindlessly go through the motions. With that, it's so easy to just lose sight of what's important to you, who you are, what your values are, and just making sure that the choices that you make, both in the actions and inaction, is lining up with those values, those goals, and just realizing that every action or inaction is either taking you closer to those things or it's pulling you farther and farther away from those things and kind of like messing up your balance. So that for me was the biggest thing, and I will for sure take those things into 2021 and remember to slow down and take inventory in the way that, I was able to this year.
What I learned in 2020 is if I slow down and I listen to myself and I ask myself what I need, all things will be revealed. And if I come from love for myself, I can come from love for everyone. And it has been a process, and it is a daily process, but I feel like I've gotten a lot of gifts from slowing down this year. Happy end of 2020. I hope you have an amazing 2021.
2020, what a crazy freaking year. What did I learn? To be my most authentic self, to stand by what I believe solidly, and to not take crap. So yeah, I've spoken my truth in 2020 and have learned that that's the best thing for me to do.
Hi. I was just reflecting on the past year and all the things that I've learned, which is a lot. But a few of the things that I found to be particularly helpful was being in the moment, living in the unknown in a deeper capacity. There's something about the pandemic that brought to surface living in the unknown in a deeper way. We never know what will happen when we wake up or what the day will bring. But something about living in a pandemic kind of exacerbated that even more. And that patience and trusting in yourself, trusting in the unknown, which isn't always easy. Appreciating what I have, appreciating the small moments in life. I feel like I get caught up, and people get caught up in planning for the future, or they have their goals in mind, which is amazing and super important, but sometimes you miss out on the small things, and the adding of the little things that add up to be something special. And I think that's really important. And that's something that I learned, not taking people for granted, not taking time for granted. And really focusing on, what is important in life. We all have a limited time here on earth, and so I think it's important to focus on what it is that we want to do and what we're here to do. And I think all of that just came more to the surface in 2020 because, everything slowed down. I think as well, I was kind of in a really busy mode all the time. And so 2020 allowed me to really slow down and to really think about things. And I think it allowed that for a lot of people. And I think that was an amazing but trying experience. So those are a few things that I learned.
The most important lesson that I was reminded of in 2020 was how precious time is. At the end of the day, it's all we want. We want more time with our loved ones, with our people. I lost my husband in 2016, so this became very apparent to me, and I just lost my mother-in-law as well a week ago. So it's just one of those things that you always want more at the end of your life, and it doesn't matter whether we're in a pandemic or what you're going through. Just appreciate the gift of life and use your time wisely. Get loud about the things that matter to you, and love your people with all your heart.
There is still Black history studied it in college. It was life-changing for me because there was so much that I had no idea that Black people contributed to our country. Because in high school, you learn the bare minimum, the very, very bare of the bare of the bare of the bare minimum. And basically, we get a chapter, and that's it. And the rest of the history has nothing to do with us. And the reality of it is American history is so embedded and started with Black culture, with Black people.
It is. And we have such a falsified history in our textbooks.
That white people are going to have to take. You're going to have to step up. You're going to have to be uncomfortable. Because yes, you're going to get a backlash, but you're going to get a backlash from those very people that you say you want to get away from.
Overtly
tell me where I can and cannot go. You know?
Exactly.
It's not the same. So
I think that's the problem. A lot of people think that people think the way they do. Because when you go outside of it, you're like, oh, these people love him. They think Trump is like their savior.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, he's not. He's playing you. If you're white, he's still playing you.
he's the great white hope, right? Wasn't that a boxing analogy or something?
Yes.
But the real problem is if he loses, see, those people are going to be convinced that he was tricked or it was stolen from him. And their attitude is not going to change because the way Trump is setting Biden up as though he's a communist and that he's going to be taking all these rights away from you. They don't listen to the other side.
Gets to that pre-chorus and like, you know, like I'm getting a little choked up about it now, but like, you know, I just want to hide from the lights and just, you know, honestly, all those feelings that I felt, you know, and just a culmination of all the feelings that I've just felt in my own Black experience, you know, and just, I still get chills, you know, listening to it. So I'm just, I got a call.
Oh, it's okay.
We're back.
Well, what I want to know,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to keep you forever, but I want to know, because I think there's a lot of people that are Black that are wanting to release music that are apprehensive at this time. I think there's a lot of people also doing a lot of things performatively. So I want to know what your advice is to people in the creative community that are Black, are women, are queer, any of that, and they're feeling apprehension to release the music.
You have privilege. You were born with privilege. Let's see what we can do so that moving forward, you use your privilege for good, and so that generations to come aren't divided by someone has privilege and someone doesn't.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot of conversation, and sometimes it's uncomfortable conversation, but I've noticed that, you know, you could have a disagreement with somebody like on Twitter or Facebook and then talk to that same person in person, and you're going to have a completely different outcome. I guarantee it. Just when you hear somebody speak through what they've been through in person and you really take
today have forgotten that. And the white kids have then, see, they're still living, as you use the word privilege, they're still living in an environment where they are being taught that they have some kind of advantage over other people.
I'm probably the most, in my spaces, I'm safer than a woman who's a tour manager or a woman who's working crew. And I just started to be like, okay, let me think about this hierarchy and the power that's set up. And also like, I'm white. What's happening to everybody else? You know, and it just kind of like, ooh, and we were on the Sam Smith tour, and myself, my tour photographer, Chelsea, and I think my friend Kristen, we all three of us were like, somehow we saw Layla started posting Me and White Supremacy challenge on Instagram.
Okay.
And it was, she had the lesson, like today we're learning about tokenism, or today we're learning about tone policing, or today we're learning about fragility. This is what it means. This is the effect it has. And where have you done this in your life? And then you would have to comment publicly. And she would say, you know, trigger warning, safe space, you know, all my Black friends, Indigenous friends, people of color, please don't come. You don't want to see this. But you would have to publicly write on there the evil that was in you, you know, and it was not fun, very embarrassing. I remember like posting, being terrified to post that I was even a part of it, you know, like, because how embarrassing. But I was like, I mean, that's the point. She would even say, like, if you're not telling people you're doing this, you're not doing the work. Then you're not here for the right reasons. And I remember even hitting certain ones where around that same time, like, and I think anyone who's learning this stuff right now too, you'll hit a moment, and as a white person
earlier, but you know, I think that it's like when there's a major reconciliation, right? And so when you think about that in accounting terms, you know, when someone is reconciling the books, you know, they're reconciling the profit and losses, they're reconciling what's gone out versus what's come in. in order to balance the books, right? To get things back in order. And so I do believe this has been a major year of reconciliation, and we're all being reconciled with our purpose, with what really matters, what doesn't matter. And I think that, and I'm guilty of it too, before the pandemic, being on the hamster wheel of just the routine and the busy and the grind. And I certainly needed to be reconciled back to my purpose and to God and what matters and what doesn't. And so my personal opinion is that it's been a major year of reconciliation, major year. And I do think as a country, we've gone through that, and as a world, and everyone. And the interesting thing, I don't remember, at least in my lifetime, where there's one event that affects everyone. There's no person you can't go to no place you can't go to in the world. There's no person you can't talk to in the world where when you say, oh, mask and COVID and social distance, they know what you're talking about because they've had to do it too. So it's a global shared experience, which even in the pain of it, we've been reconciled back to each other.
Yes.
We've been reconciled back to community. We've been reconciled back to what that actually means. And even with all of the division that goes on politically, we still share that same experience, which I'm hoping can be a foundation that can lead to some more healing in the
stuff, and it's been absolutely illuminating. They reward you for having excess. You're rewarded for having too much. I'm watching it happen in full frontal reality, and I'm not going down like that. I refuse to. And I'm trying to make sure that, the people that are helping me manage this money for my future aren't the types that would just put it right back into the shitty system that we've built, because it's bullshit. And I don't know. I'm just telling you, for me, it's I feel like a steward of something. I'm trying to be thoughtful about what is happening in my life, because I come from nothing. I literally was homeless. And here I am. I've seen both sides of this full throttle.
All wish you all a happy new year. And 2021, who knows what it's going to bring, but it's going to be a year of growth, another year of growth and perspective and love and encouragement and mindfulness. And another year of Jacques Talk. From yours truly, Stephanie Jacques. Happy New Year.